This video is called the distributive property, and hopefully this will give everyone a quick glimpse at what the distributive property is all about. And really we use it to make equivalent expressions. Now, I'm going to say something that people might not understand. When we talk about the distributive property, we're basically talking about how everybody gets something. You can think about distributive just kind of like the words giving out. It's like Christmas. Everybody gets something. Everybody gets a present. We distribute presents like Christmas. So we want to think about the distributive property in that way. There will be parentheses involved. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that everything in the parentheses gets something multiplied to it. So before we get into that a little bit, let's do a comparison to understand how this works. So here we have the order of operations. And when we do the order of operations, we always know that we're going to do parentheses first. So when I look at that and I see 3 plus 5, I will do inside the parentheses, which would be 8. And now I would multiply 8 times 8, and that would give me 64. Now by order of operations, that's how that would work. Now with the distributive property, what that means is we were talking about this everybody getting something, or everything inside the parentheses will get something to it. So basically what we're doing is we're going to take the 8 and we're going to multiply it to the 3. And we're also going to take the 8 and we're going to multiply it to the 5. This is another equivalent expression for this. Now we can simplify it some more by doing our multiplying first. So once we do that, 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 times 5 is 40. Once again, if I add those two together, I will get 64. Now when we just do numbers, it's kind of like easier to do it by order of operations. But because we're going to be dealing with variables in our terms, we need to understand how this distributive property works so that we can apply it to make those equivalent expressions. Now, before we continue, I kind of want to show you a little something fun. You can kind of think of this as if, we're talking about money. You see how this money is sitting outside the parentheses, and here you have people in the parentheses. And are the people happy? No, they're not. So, but if we use the distributive property correctly, and the way we would do that is that we would give each person some money. We agree? Now, hopefully that would make everybody happy, right? So that's how the distributive property works. We want to make sure that everybody or everything inside, every term inside parentheses is going to get what's outside the parentheses. Now, I'm going to keep that in mind that we've got to look for a couple of things. We got to know that we can use it with addition or subtraction, but also we want to kind of beware of what we call double negatives. And what we mean by that, and I'm going to put a quick little problem down here. I just said it can be done with addition or subtraction. With this subtraction here, we want to make sure if we're giving out a negative number, we want to make sure that that subtraction stays with us. And you'll see that in the examples that we're about to do. So I just want to kind of bring your attention and really just kind of watch out for those double negatives. Don't lose things. Make sure we hang on to everything. So here we go. Let's take a look at some problems. Here we go with example number 1. We have 3 on the outside and times x plus 4. Now, before we start this with the distributive property, I kind of want to show you what this means. We know that this is telling us that we have 3 x plus 4s, right? X plus 4, x plus 4, x plus 4. Now, we can sit and add all of this together. I have x plus x, and I have 3x, and I have 4 plus 4 plus 4, and that gives me 12. We can see this is how it works. But the distributive property helps us to work easier and faster. So if we think about giving this 3 out to the x and a 3 out to the 4, so then this becomes 3 times x plus 3 times 4. Once again, we simplify. 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times 4 is 12. So we can get the same result without writing everything out. And there can be more than 2 terms inside the parentheses. And as you take higher math and get into algebra and algebra 2, you will end up with way more than 2 terms inside the parentheses. So if we can understand how the distributive property works, it will go much easier for us. So let's take a look at this problem here. This says 2 times 2y minus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to give the 2 out to both terms. So we end up with 2 times 2y. And whatever sign this is here, this happens to be a subtraction sign, we're going to bring it down with us. And then we're going to put the 2, and then we're going to multiply it times 1. One of the things that hopefully you are noticing is that whatever the number is in front, we're going to just put it in the exact same place. The sign, whatever is in between, is going to be exactly the same thing. So that helps us so that we're able to just focus on what our math is going to be. So here I have 2 times 2, which is 4, and the y comes along. I have a minus sign here, and 2 times 1, which is 2. And we're done with this problem. We've come up with an equivalent expression for this problem up here on top. Let's take a look at another one. Here we're going to get into a little bit of algebra, but using this distributive property actually makes this quite easy. We're going to give 1/3 to the 15x plus 1/3 to the 9. And if we remember what we know about fractions, is that every whole number is over 1. If that's true, what I'm looking for basically is 1/3 of 15. Or if I divide both by 3, I can reduce this, and all of this can just become 5x. Over here, the same can be true. 3 can go into 3 one time, 3 can go into 9 3 times. So here I would add 1 times 3, which is 3. So that would be the same of what this would be. Here we've got an equivalent expression for 1/3 times 15x plus 9. We've got 2 more to look at. Let's look at some with some negatives outside the parentheses. So here we have a -3 times the quantity of r plus 8. We're going to give the -3 to every term inside because it's a plus sign. We're going to bring the plus down. This is a -3, so we're going to put -3 times 8. So now we're going to simplify. -3 times r is -3r. And we know that 3 times 8 is 24. So I want us to think about these two signs here. We have a positive and we have a negative. And if we remember from our multiplying rules that if we have different signs, we're just going to keep the difference. We're going to keep the negative. So it's like a positive times a negative. So if I want to make this simpler, I could leave plus -24. But we also know that adding -24 is the same as subtracting 24, isn't it? These are equivalent. So we can make it a little bit cleaner even more. So these are all equivalent expressions to this one up on top. Both of these are good. We always kind of want to go down to the least amount of terms in between the problem. So this is a little bit cleaner on the bottom, but this one here is good as well. We have one more to look at, and this is where I want to bring in that idea of double negatives. Here we have -2 times the quantity of 6y minus 5. So once again, we're going to take this -2 and we're going to multiply it to everything inside. So here is a 6y. We're going to write that down. We're going to bring down the minus sign, and here we have a -2 times 5. Remember I said, watch out for those double negatives. Make sure you're writing them down. Don't assume because that's a -2, it's the same one. It isn't. You have to bring that down. So we're going to simplify this. -2 times 6 is -12y. And then we have the opposite of -2. Well, I hope you know the opposite of something negative is positive. And if we remember again from our multiplying rules as well, this is why the opposite of something negative is positive. And some teachers might say 2 negatives equal a positive. But we know that when they're the same sign and we're multiplying, it's going to be a positive. And then 2 times 5 is equal to 10. So hopefully this short little video will help you understand the distributive property just a little bit more.